Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to get into two supplements you hear about a lot in fitness circles, especially if you're maybe just starting out or just curious, Creatine and protein powder.
That's right. They pop up everywhere.
They really do. We've looked through Sundried's beginner's guide on this, and, well, our mission today is pretty simple.
Yeah, just cut through the noise.
Exactly. Pull out the key info, how much to take, age considerations, the real benefits, potential downsides, all without getting too, bogged down in the heavy science.
Right. We want to give you the practical stuff, based on what the research and experts generally say, a clear picture of how they might fit into, well, a healthy, active life.
Perfect. Okay, let's jump in with creatine first. What exactly is this stuff, and, what's its main job?
Sure. So creatine is actually a natural compound. Your body makes it itself from 3 amino acids. Liver, pancreas, kidneys, they all pitch in.
Ah, so it's already in us.
Pretty much. And most of it, like 95%, gets stored right in your muscles. Little bits end up in the brain and tests too.
Okay. And how much are we talking production-wise?
Your body churns out about 1 gram a day on average. And you probably get another gram or two from your diet, typically.
And its main role is?
Energy. Specifically, helping out with those quick, intense bursts of energy. Think high-intensity stuff.
Right, like lifting or sprinting. How does it actually do that?
Okay, think of it like this. Your muscles use something called ATP for quick energy. It's like the immediate cash for movement.
Right, ATP.
Right. But you burn through it fast during intense exercise. Stored or creatine phosphate.
Right.
Acts like a rapid recharge system. It helps quickly make more ATP.
So it lets you push harder for a little bit longer.
Exactly. It helps regenerate that ATP so you can sustain that high intensity, for a bit longer than you might otherwise.
Interesting. So how much do we usually have stored? You said 95% is in the muscles.
Yeah, for an average person, maybe around 11 stone. That's about 120 grams stored in the muscles. But there's potential to store more, maybe up to 160 grams.
And diet alone doesn't usually max that out.
Not usually, no. A typical diet might only fill those stores to about 60–80%. Supplementing aims to boost that, by another 20–40%, really saturating the muscles.
Makes sense. So if we're not supplementing, where do we get that dietary 1–2 grams from?
Mostly animal products. Red meat, think beef, lamb, and seafood like salmon and tuna are the best sources.
Okay.
So yeah, your standard diet provides that 1–2 grams. But this also means vegetarians and vegans likely have lower natural levels.
Right, because they're not eating those main sources.
Exactly. And honestly, trying to get significantly more creatine just from food alone, well, you'd have to eat a lot of meat or fish. It's not very practical.
Yeah, I can imagine. Which is where supplements come in handy, especially for some people.
Definitely, especially if you don't eat animal products, it can be quite beneficial.
Okay, so if someone is thinking about supplementing, especially a beginner, what's the starting point for dosage?
The general recommendation, sort of the standard maintenance dose, is 3 to 5 grams per day. That's usually enough for most beginners and moderately active folks to see benefits.
Just 3 to 5 grams daily. Simple enough. What about this loading phase I hear about?
Ah, yes, the loading phase. That's an option. It involves taking a much higher dose, maybe 20 to 25 grams a day, but split up, like 4 or 5 gram servings.
Okay, split doses.
Yeah, for about 5 to 7 days. The idea is to saturate your muscles really quickly. Then, after that week, you drop back down to the 3 to 5 grams a day for maintenance.
Is that really necessary, though? Especially for a beginner?
Not strictly necessary, no. You can achieve the exact same muscle saturation by just starting with the 3 to 5 grams daily. It just takes longer, maybe 3 to 4 weeks instead of 1.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of experts kind of lean towards the no-loading approach now. It's simpler, less fuss, and potentially easier on the stomach.
Easier on the stomach. Does loading cause issues sometimes?
It can for some people, yeah. That higher dose might cause a bit of mild stomach upset or bloating in some individuals. So starting slow and steady often just feels more comfortable.
Got it. So 3 to 5 grams daily is usually the way to go. Does body size matter much? Should bigger people take more?
It can, yeah. There are some weight-based guidelines. For loading, one formula is both 0.3 grams per kilogram of body weight daily for that first week, then maintenance at 0.03 grams per kilo.
Okay. Bit maxy.
It is a bit. So like an 80-kilogram person would load with 24 grams, then maintain on about 2.4 grams. There are simpler brackets too, though.
Like what?
Something like under 8.5 stone, maybe 3 grams daily. Between 8.5 and 15.5 stone, stick with 5 grams. And over 15.5 stone, perhaps 8 grams.
That's easier to remember.
Yeah. And generally, people who are significantly larger or have a lot more muscle mass might indeed benefit from a bit more, maybe in the 5 to 10 gram range daily for maintenance.
But for the average beginner?
That 3 to 5 grams per day should be perfectly adequate.
Okay, good to know. Now, timing. Doesn't matter when you take it, before workout, after workout, on rest days.
The biggest thing really is consistency. Taking it every day is more important than the exact timing. That's what the bulk of the research points to.
So hitting that daily dose is key.
Absolutely. Now, there is some emerging research, just hints really, that taking it after your workout might offer a small advantage for muscle loading and performance gains.
Oh, interesting. Like specifically post-workout.
Yeah, one study shows slightly better lean muscle gains and body composition changes when creatine was taken post-exercise compared to pre-exercise, but it's not a huge difference.
Okay, so what's the practical advice then?
Most fitness pros would say, find a time that works for you, that you can stick to consistently. Build it into your routine. Some might suggest splitting it, before and after. Others lean slightly post-workout.
Right.
But honestly, once your muscles are saturated after a few weeks of consistent use, the exact timing probably matters even less.
And on rest days, still take it?
Yes, definitely. Keep taking that maintenance dose even when you're not training. You want to keep those muscle stores topped up.
Okay. Any benefit to taking it with food?
Yes, potentially. Insulin can help with creatine uptake into the muscles, so taking it with a meal or a drink that has some carbohydrates and protein could enhance absorption a bit.
Right, that makes sense.
So for a beginner, a good strategy is probably take it daily, maybe around your workout time, perhaps after, and ideally with a meal or shake containing carbs and protein.
Okay, great overview of creatine.
Yeah.
Let's switch over to protein powder now. Thinking about moderately active adults, how much protein do they generally need? Is it more than someone sedentary?
Oh, definitely. So your average sedentary adult, the baseline recommendation is around 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day.
Right, the 0.8 number.
Exactly. But if you're moderately active, exercising regularly, your needs go up. We're looking at somewhere between 1.0 and 1.3 grams per kilogram per day.
1.0 to 1.3 G kilogram. Okay.
Yeah, there was a study back in 2016 suggesting 1.3 G kilograms specifically for that moderate activity level. And general dietary guidelines often suggest protein should be, 10-35% of your daily calories?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, big sports organizations like the American College of Sports Medicine often recommend even more for active people, maybe 1.2 up to 2.0 grams per kilogram.
Wow, up to 2.0 G kilograms. That's quite a jump from 0.8.
It is, but it reflects the increased demand for muscle repair, recovery, and building that comes with regular exercise. Basically, the more active you are, the more protein your body needs to support that activity.
Okay, so how does someone figure out their specific number in that range?
It's pretty straightforward, actually. First, find your weight in kilograms. If you know it in pounds, just divide by 2.2.
Okay, weight in kg. Got it.
Then you just multiply that number by the recommended factor for your activity level. So for moderately active, you'd multiply by 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3, depending on where you feel you fit.
You give an example.
Sure. Let's say someone weighs 75 kilograms and is moderately active. They'd multiply 75 by 1.0 to get 75 grams, and by 1.3 to get 97.5 grams.
So they need somewhere between 75 and about 98 grams of protein a day.
Exactly. That gives them a personalized target range, which is much more useful than just a general number.
Right. And this is where protein powder can come in, presumably, to help hit those higher targets.
Precisely. Protein powder is just a very convenient way to boost your daily protein intake. Especially for active people needing more, it's great post-workout for recovery and growth.
Useful if getting it all from food is tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. If you struggle to eat enough protein-rich whole foods, it's a good option. Though it's worth remembering the advice from groups like the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Which is?
Food first. Ideally, try to get most of your protein from actual food meat, fish, eggs, dairy, legumes, tofu, etc. Powder is a supplement.
Good point. And when choosing one, anything to look out for?
Yeah, try to pick powders that are low in added sugars and unhealthy fats, and look for ones that are third-party tested if possible. That gives you some assurance about quality and what's actually in it.
Okay. And how much protein should we aim for per meal generally?
To really optimize muscle protein synthesis, that muscle building process aiming for around 15 to 30 grams of protein per meal seems to be the sweet spot. And a scoop of protein powder often fits nicely into that range.
Gotcha. Okay, let's bring age into the picture now. How do these recommendations change as we get older or younger? Starting with creatine again, what about teenagers and young adults?
Right. Creatine is super popular with younger athletes, teens, young adults trying to boost strength and muscle. You see it a lot.
Yeah. Is it recommended for them?
Well, this is where it gets a bit cautious. Most major medical bodies actually advise against creatine use for anyone under 18.
Really? Why is that?
Mainly because there just isn't much long-term research on how it affects growth and development during those crucial years. We don't fully know the effects down the line.
Okay, lack of long-term data.
Exactly. Now, some studies have looked at young athletes and found potential performance benefits using similar doses to adults. But the general medical advice remains cautious, especially before puberty is fully complete.
So mostly a no-go for under 18s?
Generally, yes. The ISN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, they have a slightly more nuanced view. They suggest it might be acceptable for young athletes if they're in serious supervised training, have a good diet, understand the supplement, and stick to the right doses.
Okay. But the overall medical consensus is caution.
Yeah, for under 18s, caution is definitely the main message.
Okay. What about the other end of the spectrum? Older adults, say 55 plus. How does creatine fit in for them?
Now this is interesting. Creatine can actually be quite beneficial for older adults. It can really help with maintaining and even building lean muscle mass.
Which is important for fighting that age-related muscle loss, right? Sarcopenia.
Exactly. Sarcopenia is a big issue. And older adults might even see similar or potentially better improvements in muscle creatine levels compared to younger folks when they supplement. Maybe because their baseline levels are often lower.
Huh. So does the research show it helps them build strength, too?
Yes, absolutely. Studies combining creatine supplementation, often using that loading phase, or just a consistent 5 grams daily with resistance training in older adults, show significant improvements.
Improvements in what specifically?
In muscle mass, definitely. But also in strength, both upper and lower body, and even in their ability to perform everyday tasks like getting out of a chair.
That's huge for quality of life.
It really is. There was even one study suggesting older women taking 5 grand daily saw less muscle loss without extra resistance training, though other studies haven't always replicated that without exercise.
So especially powerful when combined with exercise for older adults.
Definitely. It seems to be a really valuable tool for slowing that age-related decline, particularly when they stay active.
Okay, let's apply the age lens to protein now. How do protein needs change across adulthood?
Well, that baseline of 0.8 grams per kilogram we mentioned, that's generally applied to adults from 19 up to 70 plus. So roughly 56 grams for men, 46 for women as a minimum.
But minimums aren't always optimal, right?
Exactly. That's just to prevent deficiency. Actual needs really vary based on activity, health status, and age itself. There's even some research suggesting needs might creep up slightly after age 30 compared to the late teens, 20s.
So the 0.8 is just a starting point?
Pretty much. Individual circumstances are key.
And why do older adults specifically often need more protein?
Yeah, this is a really important point. Experts widely recommend higher protein intake for older adults, usually defined as over 65, sometimes even suggesting starting around 40 or 50 to combat sarcopenia.
Higher than the 0.8 or even the 1.0, 1.3 range?
Often, yes. The recommendations typically range from 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram daily for older adults, and some experts push that even higher, maybe 1.2 to 2.0 shigograms, especially for those over 65.
Why such a big increase?
It's partly due to something called anabolic resistance. Basically, as we age, our muscles become less sensitive to the muscle-building signals from protein.
So they don't respond as well.
Right. You need a stronger signal, more protein, to get the same muscle-building response you got when you were younger. That's why spreading protein intake out and aiming for higher amounts per meal, maybe 30-35 grams, is often recommended for older adults.
To overcome that resistance. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pivot to the benefits at different ages. Creatine for younger adults.
Yeah.
What are the main upsides?
For younger, active adults, especially those doing resistance training or intense sports, the benefits are pretty well established. We're talking significant gains in muscle strength, power output, and lean body mass.
So better performance in the gym or on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. Improved performance in things like weightlifting, sprinting, jumping. Plus, it helps with muscle endurance. You can maybe squeeze out an extra rep or two and faster recovery between sets or workouts.
Okay, clear benefits there. And for older adults, what are the key advantages of creatine?
For older adults, the benefits really center around combating that age-related decline. Increased muscle mass and strength are huge for fighting sarcopenia and maintaining independence.
Like being able to do daily activities.
Exactly. Improved physical performance like those sit-to-stand tests showing better function. And interestingly, there's also some emerging evidence for cognitive benefits.
Brain benefits, like what?
Things like potentially improved short-term memory and reasoning skills, and maybe even reducing feelings of mental and physical fatigue.
Wow, that's quite broad.
It is. It highlights how creatine could support healthy aging on multiple fronts, physical and mental, especially when combined with exercise.
Okay, now protein powder benefits. Younger adults first.
For younger active individuals, the primary benefit is supporting muscle protein synthesis. That's key for repairing the microscopic muscle damage from exercise and building new muscle tissue.
So it fuels growth and repair.
Precisely. And protein powder is just a super convenient way to get that high-quality protein in quickly, especially post-workout when your muscles are primed for recovery.
And the long-term result.
Consistent, adequate protein intake, helped by powder if needed, generally leads to increased lean muscle mass, better strength gains, and improved body composition over time.
Makes sense. And for older adults, the benefits of using protein powder.
For them, it's often about meeting those higher protein needs we discussed. As appetite can decrease with age, or chewing becomes difficult, getting enough protein from food alone can be a real challenge.
So powder helps bridge that gap.
Exactly. It's a practical way to ensure they hit those 1.0, 1.6 kilogram targets, or even higher, which is vital for maintaining muscle mass. And preserving muscle is crucial for their quality of life, independence, and overall health.
It's not just about muscle, is it?
No, not at all. Adequate protein is also essential for immune function, maintaining bone strength and helping the body recover from illness or injury, which are all major concerns in older age.
Okay, so clear benefits across the board, but tailored to age. Now, the important bit, potential risks or side effects. What about creatine? What are the common ones?
The most consistently reported side effect is weight gain. Initially, this is mostly water retention in the muscles.
The water weight thing.
Yeah. Your muscles pull in more water when they're saturated with creatine. Long term, if you're training, some of that weight gain can be actual lean muscle mass, which most people see as a benefit.
Right. Any other common issues?
Some people might experience mild digestive stuff, a bit of bloating, maybe an upset stomach, possibly muscle cramps. This seems slightly more common if you do the high-dose loading phase.
Okay. What about the old myths, like dehydration or serious cramping?
Yeah, those have largely been debunked by research. There's really no solid evidence that creatine at recommended doses causes dehydration or significantly increases cramping. Some studies even suggest it might help hydration status.
Oh, interesting. So side effects are generally mild.
Generally, yes. For healthy individuals using recommended doses, any side effects tend to be mild and temporary, regardless of age.
Good to know. What about protein? Can you have too much protein? Are there risks?
Yes, there can be. Consuming extremely high amounts of protein long-term, we're talking consistently over 2 grams per kilogram per day, for many people might cause some issues.
Like what?
Potentially digestive upset, putting extra strain on the kidneys, and some research hints at possible vascular problems, though that's less clear.
The kidney strain thing comes up a lot. Is that a major concern?
It's mainly a concern for people who already have kidney problems or are at high risk. Processing lots of protein does make the kidneys work harder to filter waste products.
But for healthy people?
For healthy individuals with normal kidney function, protein intake within those recommended ranges for active people, up to 2.0 gigagrams, maybe even a bit higher for very intense athletes, according to some studies, is generally considered safe.
And older adults?
But
more susceptible?
They might be, yeah, partly because kidney function can naturally decline with age, and they might have underlying issues they're unaware of. So while they need more protein than younger sedentary folks, extremely high intakes should probably be approached with a bit more caution and ideally discussed with a doctor.
Got it. Are there any really specific warnings, like groups who absolutely should avoid creatine or be super careful?
Definitely. As we covered, it's generally not recommended for under 18s due to lack of long-term data.
Right.
Anyone with pre-existing kidney disease should avoid it or use it only under strict medical advice. It could potentially worsen their condition.
Okay. Any others?
There's caution advised for people with bipolar disorder, as creatine might worsen mania. Also, some evidence suggests combining creatine and caffeine might worsen symptoms in Parkinson's disease.
Specific interactions.
Yeah. And children with known genetic disorders affecting creatine metabolism should obviously only use it under close medical supervision. It really underscores the need to consider your individual health profile and age.
Absolutely crucial. Okay, let's briefly hear what the big expert groups say. What are the key guidelines from, say, the ISSN or the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics?
Sure. The ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, they're pretty clear. They view creatine monohydrate as the most effective supplement available for boosting high-intensity exercise capacity and lean body mass.
So top marks from them.
Pretty much. They also consider it safe when used properly and say it might even help with injury prevention or managing certain conditions. Their dosage guidelines mirror what we discussed. The optional loading phase, 0.3 g kilograms for 5-7 days, followed by 3-5 g maintenance, or just starting with 3-5 g mainly.
And their view on young athletes.
They deem it acceptable under specific conditions: serious, supervised training, good diet, proper understanding, and adherence to doses. A bit more open than general medical advice, but still conditional.
Okay. And the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, mostly focused on protein, I assume.
Yes. They reiterate the 0.8 gigakilogram baseline for adults, but recommend the higher 1.2 to 2.0 gigagram range for athletes and regular exercisers for recovery and muscle building.
And the food-first approach.
Absolutely. They strongly emphasize prioritizing whole foods for protein. They also note older adults might need around 1.5 gilokilograms daily and mention the general acceptable range for protein is 10-35% of daily calories.
Any other quick expert takes?
Well, you see similar themes elsewhere. Bodybuilding.com often talks about the 3-5G creatine dose, maybe adjusted by weight, and stresses protein alongside it. Life Extension highlights creatine's safety in long-term studies, up to 5 years, at recommended doses. Harvard Health notes most people get enough protein from diet, but active folks need more. And longevity researchers, like those associated with Stanford, often recommend that 1.2-1.6 geogram protein range for adults over 50.
Okay, so good consensus there. Let's try to synthesize all this. What's the key takeaway advice for beginners and moderately active people, broken down by age? Let's start with creatine.
Okay. For adults, say 18 to 55, moderately active, stick with 3 to 5 grams of creatine monohydrate daily. Loading is optional, consistency is king. Timing isn't critical, but maybe slight edge post-workout.
Got it. Older adults, 55 plus.
3 to 5 grams daily is generally safe and beneficial, especially powerful when combined with resistance exercise for preserving muscle and strength.
And adolescents, under 18.
The general advice is still against it due to lack of long-term safety data. Best to consult a pediatrician or sports doctor if it's even being considered.
Okay. Now, protein powder advice by age.
Right. Adults 18-55, moderately active, aim for that 1.0-1.3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. Focus on whole foods first. Use powder as a supplement, maybe 20-30 gram post-workout or to top up meals.
Older adults, 55 plus.
Increase that target. Aim for 1.0 up to 1.6 grams per kilogram daily to support muscle maintenance. Focus on getting enough protein per meal, maybe 30-35 grams. Powder can be really helpful here to reach those higher goals.
And adolescents again.
Focus should be squarely on a balanced diet rich in whole foods to meet their protein needs. Powder is usually unnecessary and only for specific situations under professional guidance.
Perfect. That's a really clear summary. So we've covered a lot: creatine basics, protein needs, how age changes things, the benefits, the risks, expert views.
Yeah, quite the tour.
To recap quickly, adults, 1855. Think 3-5G creatine daily, consistently. 1.0, 1.3 G kilogram protein, food first. Older adults, 55 plus. 3-5G creatine plus resistance training helps muscle. Aim higher for protein, 1.0, 1.6 G kilograms. Teenagers generally hold off on creatine. Focus on whole food protein.
Well put.
And critically, please talk to a healthcare professional, a registered dietitian, or maybe a sports nutritionist before you start any new supplement routine. It's so important, especially with underlying health conditions.
Absolutely essential advice.
But used responsibly, alongside a healthy diet and exercise, these supplements can be valuable tools for hitting your fitness goals and supporting overall well-being.
Definitely. They can be part of a smart strategy and maybe something for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah.
Based on everything we've talked about today, what's maybe one small, consistent change you could try this week? Maybe adjusting your protein timing slightly, or adding a little more resistance exercise if you're thinking about creatine. Just consider how that small step might play into your longer-term health and fitness journey.